Hello, everyone. Welcome to this exclusive masterclass session. And it is my pleasure to introduce you to our guest, Mary Jo Rapini, a psychotherapist specializing in intimacy, parenting, body image, and relationships. She's an expert for Fox 26 Houston and maintains a private practice in Houston, Texas. Mary Jo's mission is to build and encourage healthy, strong relationships, beginning with the most important relationships of all, the one with yourself. Every relationship you will ever have depends upon your ability to understand and get along with yourself. And also, I want to mention that Mary Jo is author of multiple books that everyone can get on Amazon. And Mary Jo, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is very exciting, and hopefully together we can enlighten people and encourage them and, inspire them to be the best version of themselves possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for you, in your private practice, how often do you get to work with people who's dealing with relationship and anxiety?
I mean, it's a constant right now. Anxiety for all therapists has become like an everyday problem. And I think it's heightened this year for many reasons. We're in an election year, it's the pandemic, and there's a lot of unsure people and a lot of financial stress because, especially with the millennials, they're finishing up college or they may have gotten laid off at their job, or they're wondering, what in the heck, how am I going to get a job and leverage myself so that I can pay off these loans? And just all the things that go into being a full accomplished adult. And then they have to look at their relationships. And, a lot of people are healing from dysfunction. They're acting that out in their relationships, Sergey. And I think that's a big issue.
Yes, for sure. So yeah, it's a big issue and it's a common issue, and we can say it's an ever emerging issue.
Yes.
And there's different types of like where the origin might be different, but it all comes to worries and fears. And one of the very interesting angles or types of relationship anxiety when it comes to emotional affairs. And on your YouTube channel, like I was surprised to find out the most popular video, actually both videos that are most popular are related to emotional affairs. One that's signs of an emotional affair. In just 2 years, it has 280,000 views. So
Shows you that how many people are involved in them. And in fact, with social media, and especially now, I'm doing all my work in therapy from my Zoom, and I'm taping for Fox. You can see why online affairs and emotional affairs are what's getting us through. We're so bummed out with whoever we're quarantined with. We're looking for an escape. And lo and behold, we can talk to someone online. And before you know it, you're in the middle of something that started out as a friendship. It's very subtle. And now you're feeling a lot of feeling for this person.
yes, and what we don't realize how, and you explain that in your videos, how the way our brain works, how it all connected with the with dopamine and serotonin, all the hormones, how the whole process creates an addiction.
Yes.
And
That addiction affair is just, I think anybody in an affair that watches that video about how it becomes an addiction, the whole process, and how it feeds your brain, this dopamine, it there's no way you can deny it, that it's actually happening. And then you think about what people are willing to risk. They risk a long-term marriage. They risk their children, breaking a home, all because of their brain chemistry, and they're not aware of it. So
yes, and also what's interesting we hear when we hear conversations about relationship anxiety and emotional affairs, it's natural to think that, oh, let's imagine a couple, Mary and John, where John is having an emotional affair with someone, and it's probably Mary is the one who is experiencing this relationship and anxiety because of John's emotional affair. But it's not only that, it's actually both ways. At some point, and you mentioned that in your videos, it's just a matter of time until John, at stage 3, I believe, starts experiencing his own anxiety about the process, right?
Yes, and he's caught either way. If he's anxious when he's with this other love, and he's anxious when he's home with Mary. And so there's no relief for him. It's, in a sense, you create a vicious cycle that you're involved with someone you have a long-standing relationship and then an addictive relationship. And that's the part that eats away at people. And that's actually the part that ends up breaking or destroying the person after. Even if they go with the affair, what's interesting, because I've counseled those people who end up divorcing their wife or their husband, and they start a life with the new partner, they're now aware of the flaws. And all of a sudden, when they have them 24/7 and they don't have to worry, there's not this tension with the spouse, they start losing interest. And then what do? Because this other person is livid at you for setting them up, for dangling them along, and then you can't commit anyway. And the ones that go on because they're too afraid to face what they're going through or feeling, then they end up committing in that relationship. Oh my goodness. I mean, for one thing, you can't trust each other. For another thing, the anxiety just lingers. And it usually leads to a depression at that point. They feel very bad about themselves. Life didn't go the way they wanted. And their ex, on the other hand, is now going through the healing process and usually is doing much better than they are.
Yes, it's interesting. So when talking about relationship anxiety or any kind of anxiety, but specifically relationship anxiety, it often comes, when people describe that, it often comes to some kind of internal dialogue. Like,
Yeah.
will it last? But what if he cheats on me? Do I matter to him? How important am I to him? Will he miss me when I'm gone? Will he be there when I really need him? Does he really love me? So when people experiencing this loop of questions that only increases that anxiety, what would be your first suggestion to them?
Well, my first suggestion, when I know the truth, is to try and help them understand that they're in control of what they're creating. And that usually the thing you don't want to do is the thing you need to do. Anxiety will go away if you confront the biggest fear. And the biggest fear in a case of an affair, whether it's emotional or physical, is you're asking yourself, how in is this person? And if we end up together, will this person abandon me too? And so what you don't want to do is you don't want to confront that, because you're afraid if you ask them or you bring this up, it will scare them. And everything good that you're getting the warm fuzzies from you'll lose. And so you're kind of, as long as you're entertaining the inner dialogue that's so negative or worrisome, you're basically giving it fuel to continue to run. Whereas if you were able to ignite the courage within you and say, well, you know what, I can't keep going like this without knowing where they are. And I just confront it. It's going to take guts. I'm going to be scared, but I have to be direct and ask. And that's usually where my part comes in. And many times I'll say, why don't you invite them in for a session and we can discuss it together. They will sometimes do that, but if they're married or committed to a long-term partner, they won't risk it.
Mm-hmm. But in your experience, when you are able to bring the couple together for a session and you see both sides at the same time, their reaction, the way they're feeling, is it easier to work with the issue when you have both of them in one room?
Yes, it's easier. And in fact, what would be ideal, but I've only had one couple do it, is when there's an affair and the partners, the committed partners that are married, want to keep the marriage. And he's trying, usually the only one I've ever seen is with a man. He's trying to let go of the mistress. I ask him, have you considered bringing the mistress in for a session so we can all meet together? I mean, she's been a part of your life for 7 years. I think that's the right thing to do. I had that happen one time, and it was incredible because the spouse knew about it. They didn't want to face it, but they knew about it, and they agreed, knowing this person would be there. And I don't know if they took an anti-anxiety, but they behaved so well and open because the way they were the catalyst at that point. They were the person in the most power from a therapist's point of view. The spouse who was faithful and hadn't cheated. And if they could maintain their composure and realize this really had nothing to do with them. It was between a husband who made a bad choice. So it showed a flaw in his character. And if she wanted this marriage to work, much better they get to face this together, to go through it. And the other woman, I was really surprised that she agreed to meet because she really did love this guy. And they talked very rational about it. She did not want to let him go because he had alluded that his wife was unstable, and the reason he was staying was because it would hurt her. Very common excuse. And she would not have any of it. The spouse spoke up and said, none of that is true. And I'm really sorry he told you that. And he wept. It must have been extremely humiliating for him. But because he was truthful, as far as I know, as far as what he had told me about the story, he was truthful in that session. Good healing came from that. And it was cleared up. And she did not contact him again. She knew. She was upset, but she knew. She knew the truth, and she was able to confront it.
Okay. So when couples are dealing with an affair or even an emotional affair, what I hear from you, what is critical and important is acceptance of the current situation, respect for each other, for another partner, transparency.
Yes, you have to be transparent because what kills relationships are the lies. The choice to cheat is bad enough, but whatever you do to cover, that's what the spouse keeps playing that over, and they should. I mean, that's a natural human reaction. You would play it over and over in your mind. And if you're going to stay together, I think I said in the video, only 1/3 of all my couples that have cheating or infidelity involved go on to divorce. The rest of them stay together. But I think that says a lot about the the marriage commitment. I mean, there's more than that. There's more than that part. And if they can relearn to trust, and trust is essential, and it relies on transparency. So I always encourage couples, you must, when you come out with this, you must have everything out. Like you cannot hold back at this.
Yes. And you said that confronting, if you want to resolve the issue, confronting the partner and being transparent and open and have a conversation is important. So avoiding doesn't work.
No, and I'm saying that, Sergi, with the understanding that this partner is not abusive. If your partner doesn't manage anger well or they're abusive, I would not confront them. I would let my lawyer confront them. But and I wouldn't stay with them, because if you're married to an abuser, they're sick. End of story. You must get out.
Yes. And also, I want to cover that the whole questioning loop and the anxiety that comes out of these questions loop. What often people think that this feeling of relationship anxiety or just anxiety in general, it's just something that happens to them that makes them anxious. And in reality, and I believe you covered that in your videos as well, that it's actually the feeling of being anxious is what we generate ourselves because of habitual patterns of thinking and feeling. Can you expand a little more on that?
Well, basically, what makes us start feeling anxious is we have a feeling that we're going to be overwhelmed, that we won't be able to deal with whatever it is. And all our anxiety, the thoughts that are generating, your mind generates 50,000 thoughts, more than that, throughout the day. I mean, it's incredible. And when you begin asking yourself this and you begin feeling urgency, like you're incompetent, you have to figure out the answer, then you start generating, you're telling the synapses, go in this area and keep pushing. So the thoughts become more rapid because you're giving them attention and you're fueling them. It's like you're pouring gasoline on a fire. So what you want to do when you're getting those thoughts is you want to do whatever you can to slow down. Because when the heart rate slows down, when the breathing slows down, when you focus on small, narrow things like how you're breathing, how you're pacing, if you're doing dishes, wash the dishes, be very mindful of the act you're doing. You're going to slow your breathing. And when the breathing slows and the heart rate slows, the thoughts, then your brain gets a message, slow down, just stop it. And plus that distraction will help you get off that track. The synapses follow where they need to go. And whatever you give attention to is where they start firing. And it's a dopamine, serotonin reaction. And you start feeling like, okay, I'll be more competent if I pay attention. But it's just the opposite. The more you dig into the hole of, will I be able to make it? Will I be able to do this? It's all in the future. The more you need to keep doing that to calm the anxiety, like you will be able to handle.
Yes, yes, very interesting. And there's also another type of relationship anxiety, and you cover that in your videos as well. It's called commitment phobia. Again, if we mention imaginary couple, John and Mary, they've been dating, let's say, for 2 years. And at that point, Mary is expecting to get some commitment, some form of commitment from John, but it's a big challenge for him. And what lies behind that is commitment phobia. Can you please expand what is commitment phobia and what are the ways that these can be dealt with, managed?
Okay, I'll try to. This is a really interesting topic, and I actually happen to really like it because I'm all about helping couples be transparent. And when you date someone, it's important that you get to know their attachment style. Do they have an avoidant attachment style? That means like after sex, all of a sudden they don't call for a couple days, or they're overwhelmed with that intimacy and they kind of back off. People will say, well, I think they got too close and then they got scared. That's an avoidant attachment. An anxious attachment, it looks quite different. It's like you need constant reassurance. Like, do you like me? Do you love me? And you're looking for signs. Well, today he held my hand when we went for a walk. And then these things feed kind of almost like you cling. You're more likely to do that. And then there's the stable attachment. And you'll know that one because they're versatile. They can get very close to you. And yet when they don't see you, they call you. They're reliable. They're there. They're committed to the relationship, just like they said they were. And also, if you do get a chance to meet their family, the parents have modeled that. So, I keep going back to how you were raised as a child because it's so important. If I had one bit of advice for anybody who is planning to get married or planning to secure a long-term relationship, I would say get to know that person's parents. And not only that, listen to their childhood stories. Ask them how their parents coped with anxiety. Ask them what their parents did. If they said, well, my dad was an alcoholic, already there's going to be a problem with their attachment style. They're going to attach differently. It's not going to be stable. You know why? Because alcoholic parents teach their kids, you have to overdo because you cannot count on me because I come in and out of your life. And when I'm there, if I'm drinking, I'm not your dad anymore. I am addicted to this alcohol. I am an alcoholic at those times. So the kid never grows up feeling like they had a real solid mentor. So they have to make it for themselves or follow in their parents' footsteps.
Yes, that's very interesting.
We could go all day. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
this would be a great topic because it's so diverse and it's so, and like couples that stay together 2 years waiting for a commitment, that's ridiculous. When someone loves you, they know within 6 months, and when they know they do, and you're openly talking to them, if they have a commitment problem, they will work with you to make it work. People who just kind of hang on, they don't know what they want. I mean, I would move on. I would just change relationships because, you're always, the problem is what happens pre-marriage or pre-monogamous relationship stays with you. And so when you fight as a couple, which you must do because conflict is very important. I worry more when couples say we never fight. Whenever you have an argument, this will come up. I promise you. The lack of commitment or the lack of the person being strong enough to stand up and be part of this relationship. So you're creating misery that's going to probably happen in the future if you wait around for someone that has a faulty attachment style.
And if people are unfamiliar about attachment styles, what's the best resource that you can recommend for people to go and learn about different attachment styles?
I really like Gottman. I think the Gottman, the whole team, he and his wife are elderly and they're married and they've started a whole research lab and they do workshops. And I just think that he's really good. I also like, and I keep forgetting the name of the guy, but I think it's Alan Burgos, or I can send you the name.
Yeah.
He makes the Good Life or one of these YouTubes that's so popular. He has a lot of good advice about attachment. And
Perfect.
was really the first. He did a lot of child development and he talked about
Who was the first one?
Bowlby.
Bobby.
Oh, the first one was Gottman.
Yeah.
I admire him, and I have
Oh
some.
yeah, me too. Yes, their research is amazing. It's been like decades
It
of
is.
research.
Yes, and usually when they have something out, I mean, if you pick it up, you could improve your relationship just by practicing what they have.
Yeah, for sure. And can you please tell us more about books that you have written? What are they about, and who can benefit from reading those books?
Okay, well, the first book is one I wrote after a cerebral aneurysm burst. And I was working out at the gym, and I had a cerebral aneurysm. I never even knew what it was, and it bursted, and I almost died. And I had an incredible near-death experience, and I feel like God, or my source, what I deem God, held me. And he, like, I discussed um wanting to be able to die, and the first thing he said was, "It's not your time." And because I was a nurse prior to being a psychotherapist, I wrote it in a way that I only wrote the facts. I got the medical record. My husband's a physician, and we went through everything. I didn't try to expand what I didn't experience. And then I was working with cancer patients prior to that. And I shared some of the experiences that I never took seriously until after my aneurysm, unfortunately. Because I think when people get a terminal life sentence, or they're dealing with a life-threatening illness that, is going to spread, or, they're living with, terminal cancer, it's very important that you make amends with life, and you understand that you're part of something greater. You can't see the soul, but yet it's there. And the book revolves around that. The second one is Start Talking, a girl's guide for you and your mom about sex, health, or whatever. And I wrote that with a nurse practitioner who specializes in teenage girls' sexual health, and women, the moms. And I did the psychology part, and we just talked about everything. The book is a little outdated because we didn't discuss cyberbullying or all these other things that have come into play since then. But anyway, and the last one is called, oh my God, I'm slipping on the name, Recoupling, the 4-step couples approach to greater intimacy and better sex. And I wrote that one with a colleague of mine and good friend. He's a urologist who heads up the sexual dysfunction clinic at Baylor College of Medicine here in Houston. And we wrote it like we had 4 couples, and they came into our living room and they needed help. And so we both together help with, I do the psychology, and he does the male and female sexual genitalia, what is possible for treatment.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So for people who wants to learn more from you, where do they find you on the internet? Where do they go? Where do they start?
Well, I think if you just Google my name, Mary, and it's Jo, J-O, and the last name is Rapini, R-A-P-I-N-I, you'll get a lot of leads. The first thing is my website, maryjorapini.com. Twitter is at Mary Jo Rapini. Instagram is at Mary Jo Rapini. And I saw you on there, Sergi. So we're following you now. And then I have a Facebook page. It's Mary Jo Rapini, LPC, and we do a lot of good stuff on there. A lot of Facebook Lives, and just trying to give as much free help as I can. You can watch me on Fox 26 if you're in the Houston area on Monday and Thursday mornings at 9 a.m. I write my own segments, and I actually create them, and they show them. And Reaction Reset is my YouTube channel, and I would love if you would take a look at it, and if you really like it, subscribe and make comments, because I read all those comments. I don't always answer, but I'm very compulsive. I should be on medication, but I'm not, because it helps me in my career. But I've never
Yes.
seen a mental health issue that I can't empathize with. I think we all are variations of, mental health. And my biggest request is that if you're feeling that, there's something wrong with you, or you're feeling distraught and you're worried that there will be a stigma if you're honest, as much as you can, tell someone. Talk to one person. When you talk to one person, it helps alleviate you, and then maybe you can get steered in another direction where you can talk to others. Like, most of my clients, they talk to one person, and then that one person, or they had to talk to many people, but finally they found me. And when they find me, I think there's a terrible stigma about mental health, and it takes a lot of guts to be mentally healthy, because you have to advocate for yourself. You have to be self-aware and say, you know what, I was created to be better than this, and not living my full potential. And then, talk to someone and get help. And there is free help out there.
Yes, and also you have very affordable assignments, activity assignments, PDF docs, like the one ending the emotional affair, identifying, acknowledging, and ending an emotional affair. 3-page assignment. There's a work that needs to be done, but it's just $1.99.
Yeah, my goal, as we were speaking earlier, was to initially give free therapy, but I can't do that because legally I'm licensed by the state of Texas, and you can't do that because of malpractice insurance and all these other issues that I have to contend with. And rules are rules. So, but I do try to do it so that you can benefit. I try to give things that I think will really help you get started. And the assignments, as Sergi mentioned, are one of those.
Perfect. Mary Jo, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for sharing your knowledge, your experience with our audience. I truly appreciate that.
Well, thank you for having me, and maybe we can do it again. That would be fantastic. It's
Oh,
always nice, and I learn a lot with me.
absolutely. Yeah, it will be my pleasure. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.